If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Adeptus Custodes Custodian Guard Deep Dive. This video is a deep dive on the Adeptus Custodes Custodian Guard. The Custodian Guard are the only battle line unit in the entire Custodes unit range. Prosecutors are a battle line only in the Null Maiden Vigil detachment. The Custodian Guard are one of the more common units in the Custodes list. We usually see at least one unit with Inquisitor Draxus. They have dropped in points in the September 2025 balance update. Now we are seeing them used with characters other than Draxus. As always, let's start with the Custodian Guard datasheet. The Custodian Guard have a movement of 6, toughness of 6, 2-up save with a 4+ invulnerable, 3 wounds, 6 leadership, and an OC of 2. For the ranged weapons, we have the Guardian Spear, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2 with assault. Then we have the Sentinel Blade, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2 with assault and pistol. For the melee weapons, we have the Guardian Spear, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2. The Misericordia, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 5, AP 2, damage 1. Finally, the Sentinel Blade, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 6, AP 2, damage 1. For the unit composition, we can either have 4 or 5 models in a unit. The Vexilla adds 1 objective control to each model in the unit. A Presidium Shield adds 1 to the bearer's wound characteristic, taking them up from 3 wounds to 4 wounds. For the abilities, we have Deep Strike, Martial Kata, Stand Vigil. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. While this unit is within range of an objective marker you control, you can reroll the wound roll instead. Then we have Sentinel Storm. Once per battle in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, it can shoot again. Shoot twice in one phase. These are the damage dealing infantry unit. The best option for the weapons is the Guardian Spear. A lot of the time, we do like to include a Vexilla in the unit. A unit of 5 will have 4 Guardian Spears, 1 Vexilla, Misericordia, and Presidium Shield. I've seen and used units with all Guardian Spears for some extra damage output. A unit of 5 Spears will have 25 attacks, hit on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2, with sustained hits 1 or lethal hits in melee. 5 Spears will also have 10 shots, hitting on a 2+, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2. Why take a Vexilla? The Vexilla will add 1 OC per model in the unit. We do lose access to the more powerful melee weapons, such as the Guardian Spear. The model does get a Presidium Shield, taking the model up to 4 wounds. If the model with a Vexilla dies, we do lose the extra OC buff. 3 OC per model makes it hard to charge our unit, take the objective without wiping the entire unit out. Then we include the abilities to really crank up the damage potential. Sentinel Storm allows a unit to shoot twice in the shooting phase, once per game. A 5-man unit with Guardian Spears, those 10 shots turn into 20 shots. Stand Vigil gives the unit reroll wounds of 1, or the wound roll if the unit is within range of an objective we control. Reroll wounds makes those 20 Guardian Spear shots an actual threat. Reroll wounds on 25 melee attacks turns the Custodian Guard into blenders. No defensive abilities on this unit, only damage dealing abilities. The Custodian Guard have the Deep Strike ability. We can use Rapid Ingress to give us a much better chance of making it into combat. We could make an entire unit of Sword and Board Custodian Guard. Each model would have 4 wounds. They start to get closer and closer to the overall survivability of Wardens, even more so when we factor in the Wardens cost a lot more than the Custodian Guard. As of November 2025, a 5-model unit of Custodian Guard costs 200 points, a 5-model unit of Wardens costs 260 points. The Custodian Guard can join a Shield Captain, Valerian, Trajan, Blade Champion, and Imperial Ally Inquisitors. We do see Trajan join with the Custodian Guard in the lines of the Emperor more, and our other detachments, for the most part, they are joined with Inquisitor Draxus or the Blade Champion. We can play them without an attached character. The unit is very deadly without a character. The Blade Champion adds something very rare to the Custodian infantry, speed. Most of our infantry models have an average 6-inch movement. Even with a perfect 12-inch charge, most Custodes units have a maximum 18-inch charge range. The Blade Champion gives reliable charges with reroll the charge roll and a once per game advance in charge. Now we have a 24-inch max charge range, or an average 16-inch charge range. Draxus joined with the Custodian Guard, the best anti-infantry shooting unit we have access to. Draxus has a shooting attack and a psychic attack. Both can be used in the same shooting phase. Dirge-Singer is 4 shots, hitting on a 3+, strength 4, AP 0, damage 2, with anti-infantry 4, devastating wounds, and assault. Her psychic attack, Psychic Tempest, is 6 shots, hitting on a 3+, strength 6, AP 0, damage 2, with sustained hits 2. We can even use all these attacks to chip some damage off vehicle and monster units. The Custodian Guard abilities make this unit even more deadly. Reroll wounds of 1 or the wound roll if on objective we control. Perfect for getting those 4+ anti-infantry 2 mortal wounds shot through. They have Sentinel Storm, the whole unit can shoot twice once per game. We can shoot Dirge-Singer, the Psychic Attack, and the Guardian Spears twice in one phase with a possible reroll wounds. When we use the double tap on a unit of 5 Guardian Spears in Draxus, we will have 8 Dirge-Singer, 12 Psychic Tempest, and 20 Guardian Spear shots, which will do some insane damage to enemy infantry units. Those 2 characters are the most popular to join with the Custodian Guard. We will take a look at Trajan during the Lines of the Emperor detachment section. Now we will move on to the detachments, give the Custodian Guard a score out of 10 for each detachment. Let's quickly go through the Orc Champions, Solar Spearhead, and Null Maiden Vigil detachments. Orc Champions, the detachment needs some help. I give the Guard a 7 out of 10. Null Maiden Vigil, we need more sister units. Although we can still bring a Custodian Guard unit in that detachment, I do give it a 7 out of 10 since the datasheet is so strong by itself. Same for the Solar Spearhead, this is our vehicle detachment. The Custodian Guard are still a well above unit in that detachment. I do give it a 7 out of 10. These are the detachments that don't have as much rule support for the Custodian Guard. Let's take a look at the Talons of the Emperor detachment. The detachment rule is Revered Companions. Psychona units from your army gain the following ability: Null Aegis. While an Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, they will get a 5+ Fatal Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability: Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. We will always like any rule that protects us from mortal wounds. This is the detachment I would attach a shield captain to this unit the most. We do need to be within 6 inches of a Psychona unit. It is not as hard or Psychona unit filled as it may seem. A few units in the list, such as Witseekers, do a good job of keeping the buff up for the first few turns at least. There aren't any Talents of the Emperor enhancements that will really buff up the Custodian Guard by putting it on one of these characters. Let's move on to the stratagems. The first stratagem is Talons Interlocked. This can only be used on Adeptus Custodes infantry. This will give the Custodian Guard's range attacks +1 strength and +1 AP. Talons Interlocked can be a very good stratagem into certain targets. Into those common toughness 4 2 wound profiles, adding an extra 1 strength and AP to the Guardian Spear's strength 4 AP 1 range attacks makes a big difference. Now wounding those same toughness 4 profiles on a 3+ with AP 2 with a possible reroll wounds from the Stand Vigil ability. It does not buff Draxus up as much as we would like though. Shooting into those certain toughness targets, 1 CP is CP well spent. The next stratagem is Emperor's Executioners for 2 CP, used at the start of the fight phase. As long as our Custodian Guard unit targets an enemy unit below starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll. 2 CP is expensive. One of the reasons I do like to take a shield captain with the Custodian Guard. Now we can spend 1 CP to have a +1 to the wound roll in the fight phase as long as our target is below starting strength. Guardian Spears have 5 attacks each, hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2. +1 to the wound roll can have them tearing apart most enemy units they come across. Add in the army rule for sustained hits 1 or lethal hits, as well as the Stand Vigil ability to access reroll wounds of 1 or the wound roll. This can be a very powerful stratagem. The downside is that it is 2 CP. Next up is Empiric Severance for 1 CP. As long as our Custodian Guard unit is within 6 inches of a Psychona unit, the Custodian Guard will have a 4+ Fatal Pain against psychic and mortal wounds. A 4+ Venal Pain is great to have against our hated enemy mortal wounds. We do need to be within 6 inches of a Psychona unit to use it though, meaning we would already have the detachment rule for the 5+ Venal Pain to psychic and mortal wounds. If a mortal wound bomb is on its way, we may want to use this. Unlike Arcane Genetic Alchemy and Shield Host, this has to be used before we take the mortal wounds. Next up is Hunt as 1 for 1 CP. This is our fallback, shoot in charge stratagem. Fallback, shoot in charge is great in this detachment, like it is in all of the other detachments that do have fallback, shoot in charge. The Custodian Guard with Draxus is a common unit in the Talons of the Emperor, a stratagem the unit will take full advantage of. These fallback, shoot in charge stratagems make it near impossible to tie them up or prevent them from shooting in our turn. On to the best stratagem in the Talons of the Emperor, Talon Pincer for 1 CP. When an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of our Custodian Guard or any of our other Custodian units, we can make a normal move up to 6 inches. This is the best stratagem in the detachment. A 6-inch reactive normal move is very powerful for the Custodes, and this is 6-inch flat. There's no rolling a dice, there's no d6, it's just move 6 inches. We lack a lot of movement tricks. This is one of the few detachments that gives us a movement trick. We can use this to move block, make charges harder, get out of line of sight, or even embark inside a Land Raider. If we can move within the embark range of a Land Raider, a lot of flexibility with this stratagem, since it is a flat 6-inch normal move. Even though there are some good stratagems in the detachment, I believe Talons to be the weakest of the top 3 detachments for the Custodian Guard. The detachment rule does not really push us to bring more than Inquisitor Draxus in the Custodian Guard unit. I may try a Custodian Guard heavy list in the Talons of the Emperor, maybe my outlook would change. I still give the Custodian Guard a strong 7.5 out of 10. It is still a very strong and very competent unit. Next up is the Lines of the Emperor. The detachment rule is against all odds. Each time Adeptus Custodes unit from your army makes an attack, if there's no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. This is a great detachment rule for the Custodian Guard. The Guardian Spear's melee with +1 to the wound is even more deadly. The biggest thing this detachment rule does for the Custodian Guard is the shooting potential. Strength 4, AP 1 damage 2 shots become much better with +1 to the wound roll. Not to mention if we have Draxus in the unit, her attacks hit on a 2+ now instead of her base 3+. The best detachment rule in the game when set up right. This detachment is where we start to see Trajan with the Custodian Guard and the Custodian Wardens more. With the Custodian Guard, a great detachment rule for either of these units, +1 to hit and wound in the shooting or the fight phase. With +1 to hit and wound, the Guardian Spears and Trajan's Axe will be wounding Big Knights and other tough targets on a 4+. Trajan's Watcher's Axe with +1 to the wound will be wounding anything toughness 9 and under on a 2+. Moment Shackle attached to the Custodian Guard is very scary in the Lines of the Emperor. It is the Custodian Guard abilities that really turn this into a damage dealing unit. Stand Vigil is what we can make Trajan's 12 attacks from Moment Shackle much more reliable. He is only strength 10. Reroll wounds really helps into targets above toughness 10. We do have to be on objective we control, or it is only reroll wounds of 1. To get the Trajan and Custodian Guard unit on objective to boost their damage potential. The Lines of the Emperor enhancements only really buff up the character, so let's move on to the stratagems. The first stratagem is Defiant to the Last for 1 CP. This will give character models in the unit a 2+ fight on death, and non-character models in the unit a 4+ fight on death. Defiant to the Last gives the unit a way to deal with fights first, not our first option, but something we can do. Also great for its normal use, get charged, 1 CP and a 4+, the Custodian Guard can fight on death. If we are on objective we control, we can still reroll the wound roll as well. If we get lucky, we can take the unit out with us. The threat of fight on death can even make the opponent second guess the charge. The next stratagem is Maneuver and Fire for 1 CP. This is our fallback, shoot and charge. Fallback, shoot and charge is amazing on this unit. It allows us to fall back from ongoing combat to charge back in or a different unit for fights first. The fallback and shoot part usually does not mean as much as the fallback and charge. Guardian Spears with Inquisitor Draxus shooting with +1 to hit and wound is a real threat. fall back, shoot something to pieces, and then charge back in to blend up some enemy models in melee combat. Next up is Peerless Warrior for 1 CP, used in the fight phase. This will give all melee weapons in the unit the Precision ability. Need a tough enemy character dead, but don't want to send in expensive Trajan with Warden's unit? Send in a cheaper Custodian Guard unit. Spend 1 CP to tear that character out of the enemy unit. Every melee attack will have the Precision ability. Peerless Warrior for 1 CP, combined with the detachment rule to give the unit +1 to hit and wound. It is a situational stratagem, but very effective when we are able to use it. Last up is Swift as the Eagle for 1 CP. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot, we can move that Adeptus Custodes unit that was shot at for a D6 normal move. This is a situational stratagem. It can come clutch or be a waste of CP. D6 makes it a bit unreliable. Best used when a low roll will achieve what we are trying to do. Move out of line of sight, extend a charge, or even move closer to a unit that has been pre-measured for Trajan's unit not to be able to charge into in our turn. 1 CP, roll a die and move closer to that enemy unit. Now maybe our Trajan and Custodian Guard unit can make a charge into that enemy unit that had pre-measured for us not to be able to make that charge. Like I always say, do not use this with a if I roll a 6 mindset, plan for a low roll. Lions of the Emperor is a great detachment for the Custodian Guard. Is it the best detachment? I'm not so sure. I think the Shield Host might have it beat for the Custodian Guard. +1 to hit and wound, a 4+ fight on death, fall back, shoot and charge, and more are great reasons to take a unit of Custodian Guard with Draxus or by themselves in the Lions of the Emperor detachment. I give the Custodian Guard a 9 out of 10 in the Lions of the Emperor. There are not many defensive rules to help keep the Custodian Guard alive. This is the reason I took the score down some. The next detachment is the Shield Host detachment. The detachment rule is Martial Mastery, where at the start of the battle round we can select one of the 2 bullet points below. That bullet point's effect will apply to the next battle round. As long as the unit has the Martial Kata ability, we can either pick critical hits on 5s or an extra AP1 to our melee weapons. This detachment rule makes the Custodian Guard into melee nightmare fuel. 20 to 25 attacks hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP2, damage 2 with sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. Martial Mastery can add sustained hits or lethals on a 5+ or AP3 Guardian Spears. The rule of thumb is lots of invulnerable saves, take crits on 5s. Little to no invulnerable save, take that extra AP1. I have used these to tear knights apart in the fight phase. AP3 rerolling wounds on objectives we control with no invulnerable saves turns the Custodian Guard blender up to turbo speed. There is an enhancement that does pair very well with a character joined up with the Custodian Guard. While the bearer is leading a unit, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Ignore Cover ability. If I do bring a character that can take enhancements joined to the Custodian Guard, Panopta specs is almost auto-include. Ignore Cover on AP1 Guardian Spear shots is fantastic. Now these guns are even more of a threat into 2 wound, 3+ save models. The chip damage potential turns into actual damage onto vehicle and monster units. A strong enhancement when paired with the Custodian Guard. I do prefer this on a shield captain with the Virtus Praetors when possible though. On to the Shield Host stratagems. The first stratagem is Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP. Any phase just after mortal wounds have been allocated to an Adeptus Custodes model from your army. Until the end of the phase, models from that unit have a 4+ Fatal Pain against mortal wounds. Nothing kills Custodes like mortal wounds. It is dangerous out there for the Custodes, damage 3 and devastating wounds everywhere. Arcane Genetic Alchemy is the best protection for mortal wounds in all 6 Custodes detachments, as well as one of the best mortal wound protection stratagems in the game. The power comes from how we can wait until we've taken the mortal wounds to activate it. 2 to 3 mortal wounds, save the CP. 4+ mortal wounds, we may want to consider using Arcane Genetic Alchemy. Next up is Multi-Potentiality for 1 CP, used in our movement phase, our fallback, shoot and charge stratagem. All of our Custodes units love fallback, shoot and charge. The Custodian Guard are one of the few infantry units that can do some decent shooting, as long as we are on objective we control or use the double tap ability. A fantastic stratagem for the Draxus unit. It will stop the opponent from tagging her to keep her from shooting. Spend 1 CP to fall back, and then melt some enemy infantry. Archaeotech munitions for 1 CP, used in our shooting phase. This will give our ranged weapons sustain hits 1 or the lethal hits ability. We can use this on any of our Custodian Guard units. Lethal hits on strength 4 shooting can really help. Although the best use of the stratagem is on a Custodian Guard with Draxus unit, even though the psychic attack is sustain hits 2, it does not stack with sustain hits 1. I want more Dirtsinger shots. Sustain hits 1 would be my choice. Use this with Sentinel Storm to have 8 Dirtsinger shots with sustain hits 1, as well as the rest of the shots from the unit. Last up is Vigilance Eternal for 1 CP. In your movement phase, 1 Adeptus Custodes battle line unit from your army within range of an objective marker you control. The objective marker remains under your control even if you have no models within range of it, until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. This is sticky objectives. If you noticed, this can only be used on a battle line unit. Custodian Guard are the only battle line unit we have in the Shield Host detachment. Being able to hold an objective without having models on it is huge for the Custodes. We are an elite army. We do not have a lot of models / units on the board. For 1 CP, we can sticky the objective with a Custodian Guard, then push forward in our next turn to pressure the enemy scoring units. I think this might be the best detachment for the Custodian Guard. The Custodian Guard are a great datasheet on their own. Add the bonus of critical hits on 5+ or an extra AP 1, protection from mortal wounds and fallback shoot and charge. The only unit able to use the sticky objective stratagem. I have been playing around with a list of 25 Custodian Guard in it. It does have its limitations, but some games it seems almost unstoppable. I give the Custodian Guard a perfect 10 out of 10 for the Shield Host detachment. Wardens are great, but they do not take advantage of the rule set like the Custodian Guard or even the Virtus Praetors. If we're playing an army that doesn't have a lot of invulnerable saves, we can really see the difference between a Custodian Guard and the Wardens with the extra AP 1 and re-rolling wounds of 1 or re-rolling wounds on objectives. The Shield Host rule set turns the Custodian Guard into turbo blenders in the fight phase. We will finish the video with some final thoughts. The Custodian Guard are one of the best units we have in our codex. No, they do not have the same survivability of the Wardens, but they are cheaper and hit much harder in melee and shooting. Combine the unit with certain characters and rules, these become some of the best units we can create for the Adeptus Custodes. I have always said since the channel was created, we do not need to spam 3 units of Wardens in every one of our lists. Custodian Guard can be used too. I hope this deep dive shows why and how we can use the Custodian Guard in our list. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.